Hello guys and welcome to another video. The Chalice of the Gods, or Percy Jackson and the Olympians #6, already came out a couple of weeks ago, so I thought it was about time that I do a video where I share my favorite passages, quotes, and moments from the book with you guys. So without further ado, let's get into it. Rick has given us so many instantly iconic moments in this book that this video is going to be very long, so strap in. One of my favorite moments actually takes place before the book even starts, and that is the dedication. We have Walker, Arian, and Leah. Here's to new beginnings. For those of you who live under a rock or do not know, these are the names of our three main actors, the three leads of the Percy Jackson Disney Plus TV show. So that's the actor for Percy, Annabeth, and Grover. They're a big deal, and it is a big deal that Rick dedicated this book to them. It just goes to show that he truly believes that they are the best casting that they could have gotten, and we have to get behind that. One of the best things of this book is that we got our chapter titles back. We hadn't seen those since Magnus Chase, but this time it's from Percy's perspective, which makes it all the better. And chapter 1 is I Get Flushed. Look, I didn't want to be a high school senior. Not only do we get the chapter titles back, but we get a nod to the original Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief first sentence, which is, of course, look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. I didn't have to be a hero seeking praise. Being a half-blood is scary. It mostly gets you killed in really nasty ways. I didn't want to cause trouble. Look, if it's 2023 and you still haven't listened to the Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief musical, you are missing out. You're doing a disservice to the whole community. Go listen to that and come back here. So we get Percy's inner monologue, and he explains to us once again why being a demigod isn't something that we should want to be. Honest truth, most of the time, being a demigod blows chunks. Anybody who tells you different is trying to recruit you for a quest. Blows chunks. I rest my case. We get the first mention of Annabeth in page 7, which isn't soon enough, but I'll take it. I'd also promised my girlfriend Annabeth. The plan was that I'd graduate on time so we could go to college together. I didn't want to disappoint her. The idea of her going off to California without me kept me up at night. I honestly need a fan art of that, just like Percy laying on top of his sheets, just like this, paralyzed. Annabeth going to New Rome without him is Percy's sleep paralysis demon. Otherwise, the mist just kind of plasters over what you see, making ogres look like pedestrians or a giant dragon look like the N train. And believe me, it's embarrassing trying to board a dragon. I can't believe Percy tried to board a dragon when he's half asleep going to school. I love that. Give me an order of another fan art for this, please. She raised an eyebrow as if she was starting to worry I might be a bit slow on the uptake. Weirdly, I get that look a lot. But we also have Jason Grace commenting that he is smarter than he looks. So honestly, if Percy finds himself ever needing money, he should just go and work for a himbo juice. He would be the perfect fit. Chapter number 2. My dad helps out, asterisk, no actual helping occurs. This challenged the because Poseidon for best Poseidon related quote. You know you've been a demigod too long when you're flushed out of your school straight up into the Atlantic Ocean and you're not even surprised. Percy is so done with literally everything God related at this point that he just has this face throughout the whole quest. He is the embodiment of the disappointed but not surprised meme. I found this addition quite interesting. So we're talking about Poseidon and how he can change his appearance, but he chooses to dress quite poorly, at least from Percy's perspective. Some of the Greek gods I met like to morph their appearance on a daily basis. They could do that, being, you know, gods. I found this extremely topical. I think Rick was pretty strategic when inserting this sentence into the book. It supports his choice of the casting for the TV show, not only for the kids and the campers, I mean towards the gods, that several of them aren't white as they're probably described in the books. And the fact that they can look like whatever they want is also giving Disney a free pass in case they need to do any recasting with the gods like they will need to do for Zeus. But Poseidon seemed to have settled on a look that worked for him, even if it didn't work for anyone else. It's a good thing the gods cannot read Percy's mind, because this boy would have died in the first few pages of The Lightning Thief. Percy, he said, hey, we have deep conversations like that. Comments like that make Percy the best protagonist of all time. This just took me back to Percy Jackson and the Last Olympian when he's about to face like that light titan across the water, and the titan is giving like a huge speech, and Percy's about to say a very cool line like no, and then he gets interrupted. I love him. He is so dumb, but at the same time so incredibly self-aware. The balance, the equilibrium, the juggling that goes on in this man's brain to choose what he can decipher and what he can't. I just want to get into New Rome University. Isn't there any way you can? I wriggled my fingers trying to indicate godlike magic that can make problems disappear. Not that I'd ever seen such a thing. Gods are much better at magically creating problems than making them go away. The best thing that Poseidon has ever done in his life is create Percy, but I'll attribute 90% of that to Sally. You were never supposed to be born, so you are technically ineligible for New Rome University. I couldn't believe this. Also, I could totally believe this. Percy is also the embodiment of the Pikachu shocked meme. I also love that Percy grinds his teeth because I also do that in my sleep, obviously not voluntarily, so we have that in common. Anxiety. This right here is a fan art that I needed the most, and some people have already delivered. So, Percy Jackson will do your quests in exchange for college recommendation letters. The photo looked like it had been taken from inside my bathroom mirror, which raised a whole bunch of disturbing questions. My hair was wet, my eyes were half closed, a toothbrush was sticking out of my mouth. I read this knowing that we were going to get a plethora of incredible fan art out of this, and I've already found 2 that I love. So if you find any more, please send them to me because this was just meant to be drawn. And I'm just waiting and praying for the day that we can finally see this on screen, because now I need Walker Scoble to do this scene for me. If they don't ever get there, I'm just gonna find him and ask him to film this for me. That sounded way more creepy than I wanted to. I'm sorry, Walker, I will not stalk you. Annabeth and I sat on the fire escape outside my bedroom, our feet dangling over 104th Street. Over the past few weeks, as summer wound down, the fire escape had become our happy place. And despite everything that had happened today, I was happy. It's hard to be sad when I'm with Annabeth. So finally, 70 pages in, we have our first actual Perciveth interaction. Well, 70 pages in this format, because I read it in ebook format with quite a large font. So take the page numbers I say with a grain of salt. We had been through so much together already, it was hard to imagine anything we couldn't face. Occasionally, somebody would ask me if I'd ever dated anyone besides Annabeth, or if I'd ever thought about dating somebody else. Honestly, the answer was no. Suck it, Rachel. When you've helped each other through Tartarus, the deepest and most horrifying place in the universe, and you've come out alive and stronger than you were to begin with, that isn't a relationship you could ever replace, or should ever want to. Yeah, okay, so I wasn't even a teen yet. Still, no one knew me better, or put up with me more, or held me together as much as Annabeth. And I knew she would say the same about me. Because if I were slacking as a boyfriend, she would let me know real quick. We all know that's true. This book blessed us with an incredible Annabeth Paul Blowfish dynamic that I and no one knew we needed. But now I just need more of it. I need more domestic Annabeth and Percy with Paul and Sally. And baby Estelle. I cede the chopping board to the daughter of Athena, he said with a little bow. Thank you, kind sir, Annabeth said, equally formal. My mother laughed. You two are adorable. Paul winked at Mom, then turned to heat up the walk. Ever since last spring, when Paul had tutored Annabeth in some impossible English project, the two of them had bonded over Shakespeare, of all things. And then, spoilers to a couple of chapters after this, Percy quotes Shakespeare to Annabeth. I'm literally melting. I felt a little bit sad about having one foot out the door just when things were getting better. That wasn't my mom's or Paul's fault. They did everything they could to include me. Besides, I wanted to go to college. If I had to choose between being with Annabeth and, well, anything, that was no choice at all. I have read these passages so many times already because I've read the book twice and I've read through this to make videos about it a couple of times that I will be able to quote this whole book in no time because I'm a psychopath. Then comes one of the most iconic scenes that feels like we've already had forever. This feels like it's truly out of the original book series. So I found fan art of this. Thank the heavens. Thank fan artists everywhere for doing the Lord's work. so I'm gonna show you as I read the scene. Are you kidding? He grinned at Annabeth. A chance to do quest? Just the three of us? Like old times? The Three Musketeers. The Powerpuff Girls, Annabeth suggested. Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey, I said. Wait a minute, Grover said. I'm fine with this, Annabeth said. Enough said, I don't have to say anything. That scene speaks for itself. After that beautiful reunion of our golden trio, we finally meet the person who is going to give us our quest, Ganymede. Annabeth guesses right away who he is. So he's like, am I wearing a name tag? How did you know that? Well, you're gorgeous, Annabeth said. That seemed to cheer up the god, though it didn't do much for my mood. Jealous Percy, who knew? I mean, we knew because Percy has always been jealous of Luke in some way or another, but it's always been like jealous Annabeth. Getting like tiny hints of jealous Percy in like healthy doses. I'm not complaining. Percy wants to be told he's pretty, that he's handsome, that he's gorgeous, that he's beautiful. And I think Annabeth should say that to him more often. I like it when boys like being complimented on their appearance. I don't know why. It just clicked with me when I read a book. I think it's cute. So Annabeth, if you want to compliment Percy more often, then I will. Discreet is what we do, said Grover, who had once blindly dive-bombed Medusa in a pair of flying shoes while screaming at the top of his lungs. They're best friends, Your Honor! This whole situation with Ganymede and Zeus is very sus, and it's very creepy and gross, and Zeus should be locked away in Tartarus with the rest of the scum. Hera, for one, she hated me since the day Zeus snatched me up to Olympus. Zeus was always complimenting me. You see how handsome I was, how much I brightened up the palace. It's not my fault I have nicer legs than she does. He's his boy toy. Ganymede is Zeus's boy toy. I'm traumatized. Usually to battle a monster, talk to a god, or hang from a billboard in my boxer shorts. Long story, I have time. I will sit here patiently until you tell me the whole story. Be it 1 hour, be it 2 hours, be it 6 hours. I will sit and enjoy every second of that story. So Percy, please share it with us. He frowned at me, as if worried I might do something high profile like burn the place down. Honestly, that hurt. Just because I'd been known to burn places down, blow things up, and unleash apocalyptic disasters whenever I go, that doesn't mean I'm totally irresponsible. I love them. They are best friends, Your Honor. This is literally the equivalent to this scene that we had before. Percy's like, Grover, you are talking out of your ass. And Grover, he's the same with Percy. They know they're both dumbasses, even if they have the best intentions. But they've seen each other at their worst, so they will never cut each other any slack. And I love that. That's the way it should be. It's a nostalgia trap, I realized. Places selling people their own childhoods. Annabeth nodded. That makes sense, but a lot of places sell nostalgia. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I've seen people online say that this is a clear dig at Disney, which would be funny because Disney is the parent company of Percy Jackson now, both the books with Disney Hyperion and obviously the TV show with Disney Plus. I don't think it's necessarily targeted at Disney. I also think that it's a bit of a self-dig on Rick's part, because clearly by writing a book that he considers now to be the 6th book of his first series, which he started writing in 2005, you could say that he is doing a nostalgia grab, cash grab himself. I think this is him being a little bit self-aware, maybe lightly roasting Disney, but he can't say anything really because he's doing the exact same thing, albeit at a much smaller scale. I looked at Annabeth and Grover. Are we really going to search out a karaoke bar? Like, on purpose? You can duet me on Shallow, Annabeth offered. You don't want that, I promised. Oh, I don't know, she pinched my arm slightly. Might be romantic. I'm going to keep walking, said Grover. And that is why we have always needed Percabeth dynamic next to Grover, because we've had Percy and Annabeth being best friends slash having romantic attraction for one another, being very angsty. With Grover there, we've seen them as a platonic trio, but we've never seen them as a couple plus Grover. And that's what we've always needed. And thank you, Rick for deciding to do that. I recently checked out my video reacting to the announcement that this book was going to be a thing and where Rick really talked about what it was going to be about. And he actually states there that he's going to focus on the original trio a lot, which we clearly see in this book. But I was a bit worried that in the next one, since people are asking for a lot of different cameos, that it might focus on other characters. But based on what he said there that one time, I think that the whole trilogy is just going to be the main trio and them going through quests, which I love and I need. So please don't bombard him asking for more cameos. I'm very more than happy with what we've gotten. And if it's only the 3 of them, I couldn't be happier. The only cameo that I would really enjoy and actually ask for is a Talia cameo, because you can't have the original trio without Talia. Or the other one I could have is Tyson, but I don't want to see Ella, and I don't want to see Tyson and Ella together, and they're too tight to Camp Have Blood, so no, scrap that. I want Talia, and that's it. Talia or nothing. I am a guy of limited talent, something that the fandom would never say about Percy Jackson. Ask anyone, you are the most overpowered person in this whole universe, which I think is why Rick has written this book the way that he has, never having Percy use his water powers on purpose and having him battle people with his heart and with his mind and with his friends instead of with Riptide or with his water powers. If I can't kill it with water or sword or sarcasm, I'm basically defenseless. My hands felt stubby, my pants legs were too long, the cuffs pulled around my ankles. I didn't really understand what had happened until Annabeth groaned and sat up. She too was swimming in her 2 big clothes. Her face, well, look, I would know Annabeth's face anywhere. I love her face. Casual Percabeth is casual and I adore it. Also, I never thought we were going to get a de-aging trope from Rick Riordan about the trio, but it's more than anything I could have ever asked for. She rubbed her head and stared at me, her eyes going wide, then let out a curse that sounded strange coming from the mouth of a 3rd grader. He de-younged us. Blah. Grover sat up. Annabeth canonically curses like a sailor. I wish we could see that in the TV show. At least let Leah curse in Greek. It wouldn't be that bad, right? Nobody would know what they're saying. And maybe, you know, Greek people would. Do it in ancient Greek. Loophole. Satyrs mature half as fast as humans. I remember Groven telling me, which meant multiply by 2, carry the 1, divide by... Nope, never mind. I'd save the math for my homework. Percy tried to do girl math and he failed. I do think that Percy is one to do girl math a lot. Annabeth stood shakily. It was strange seeing her as a younger girl. I had an irrational fear that she would yell, "Gross!" Boy cooties. Suddenly, Grover rounded on me, lowered his head, and butted me in the chest hard enough to push me a step back. Ow, I complained. Dude, why? Percy at this point is like, he can't complain, he can't say anything else, he's just like, why? Why would this happen to me? Sorry, Grover rubbed his horns. I need to play. I'm practicing social dominance in the herd. Never thought I'd hear those words in my life, but I'm here for it. He butted me in the chest again. This is going to get old real quick. Right now, I'd love to get old real quick, Annabeth said. Annabeth is just on top of all those puns throughout the book. She's just spewing out one banger after the other. She scowled at me. You think so? Then you're a dummy. She put her palms to her temples. Sorry, Percy, I can't think straight. I think Hebe changed more than just how he looked. Annabeth regressing to just being triggered by anything that Percy says that's slightly dumb. It's giving me life. It's giving best of both worlds. Obviously, I'm glad that Annabeth has matured from that stage, but I can't say I'm not glad to see it brought up again. And then what? Grover bleated. She might turn us into babies. Stop it, Annabeth said. No, you stop it. Meanie, I'm not. R2. Guys, I grabbed their arms and held them apart. You can figure this out. Back inside. I was trying to be the reasonable one. Definitely a sign of the apocalypse. Have I mentioned yet that I want to see this on screen? I want this adapted, please. Who do I have to sell my soul to get this into a Disney Plus adaptation? I'll do it. They want trouble, I'll give them trouble. Which was probably my worst heroic line ever. Honestly, we've heard you say, Greeks, let's fight stuff. So you're safe on that front, Percy. Even more embarrassing, when I uncupped Riptide, it remains a ballpoint pen. So it doesn't work for kids. It has a kid's safety feature. And this brings up a question. How old do you have to be to use Riptide? Because 8 is too young. But 12-year-old Percy could uncup Riptide with ease when he was 12 in the Lightning Thief. So is it around 10? Is it around the age where monsters start chasing demigods? But Percy's a special demigod. He was chased by monsters at 5 years old because he's so powerful. So please explain this to me. What is the age required and what is the age? Better yet, don't say anything because I know if you write it, you're gonna forget about it and then change the canon later on in a different book to avoid that whole mess. Just don't say anything. I wanted to ask her what her plan was, but I was already out of breath. One of the things that Rick Riordan will never forget that is canon is that Percy is a terrible runner. It's not even a fact that we get in the main series. I believe it's in Demigod Files, but Percy can't run and he never misses a chance to remind us, and I love it. It took me only a second to understand why she wanted it. By now we'd had enough adventures together that I was usually only a few steps behind Annabeth's thought process rather than a few days. Character development. Dude, just yell at them, I suggested. Do you know any foul insults? This is a family amusement center where they are trying to kill us for complaining. Good point, Grover said. I will insult the chickens. He shouldered past me. The fact that Grover's like, dude, there are children present, and Percy has to remind him that they're about to be killed by murderous chickens. That's Rick Riordan right there. So Percy and Annabeth are a thing. They're dating. It's been established. They've been dating for over a year and a half? I don't know. At this point, over a year at least, even though Percy was missing for more than half of that. But they've been dating and they've known each other for a while. But it's nice to see that even when they're dating, Percy will also clap back at Annabeth. Percy will hold things over Annabeth's head and make fun of her as well. It's not Annabeth just digging on Percy all the time. This boy can't defend himself, so people don't say that it's toxic and that Annabeth is the worst. It's banter. It's just banter. Everybody knows it's just banter. That was a Heartstopper season 1 reference. I hope you got that. Remember not to hurt her, I said. Really helpful, Annabeth grumbled. But of course, what goes around comes around. Is one chick enough? I asked. If you're jealous, you can have this one, Annabeth says as the chick is biting her finger and leaving blood all the way down her arm. Gotta love those Annabeth pep talks. They always boil down to, if A equals B, then okay. If A doesn't equal B, then dead. I wasn't sure whether to feel relieved or not. Now I had to sing the song, and I can't sing. You want to take the lead? Oh no, Annabeth said. You're the one who made Hebe mad. Me? That was all of us. 90% you. Only 90% though. I'm improving. Grover wedged another table against the doors. Just crank up the music. We'll both back you up. And if that's not an accurate summary of the first 5 books, then I don't know what is. Annabeth helped, full sarcastic air quotes, by warbling all the words have a beat behind me. This scene is so well written. I can just hear the karaoke song in my mind. This is how you know you found true love. Oh, Percy thinks it's true love. When your significant other is just as bad at singing as you are. I got to the chorus and yelled, "This one's for you, Hebe." "Heard you," I muttered. "Cry, jealous, oh yeah." By the second verse, Annabeth was getting into it. She threw her arm around me and belted out that she too was just a jealous guy. Her enthusiasm improved the song by -5%. Get yourself a boyfriend that loves you like Percy loves Annabeth. Annabeth not wanting to sing the lead in the song, but then getting so into it that she throws her 8-year-old arm around Percy and starts singing as if she feels like she too is a jealous guy, because obviously she can relate. This reminds me of when I went to karaoke the other day, and every time I sang a song, it was like, yes, I have been broken up with in the most devastating manner, which has never happened, but I sing those songs. I sing all too well, like I've been wronged in an unimaginable way. So karaoke is the best. Percy doesn't know. Especially Percy, Annabeth said. I am 90% of the sorry, I agreed. Please forgive us. If that song was supposed to be an apology, you should direct it at John Lennon. Gurgle 1 for yes. Poop yourself for now. I have never wanted to hear yes so much in my life. Okay, so let's talk timeline. The quests have to be done by the winter solstice, but Estelle is coming around March 15th, right? The Ides of March. So that means that by the end of this new trilogy that we're getting, we're not gonna see Estelle yet. So therefore, we're not gonna see Percy change his first diaper. And that is why, as I said in one of my older videos, that we have to get a book of the road trip that Percy, Annabeth, and Grover take from New York to New Rome University, because in one of the Trials of Apollo books, I think it's the 5th one, I don't remember which one is it, but in one of those they mention that some things happened during that trip. And spoilers for the 3rd book of Trials of Apollo, in that book they mention that that's probably when Annabeth and Percy find out about Jason. So we really need to get that story. At the subway station, Annabeth, Gruber, and I went our separate ways. None of us said much. We were all pretty shaken by our afternoon of youth, chickens, and terror. I wasn't too worried though. We'd been through post-adventure shell shock together lots of times, and I knew we'd bounce back. It's nice to see that Rick is finally acknowledging that these things kind of traumatize the characters every time they happen. Because yes, they've been through far worse, but it's still a life or death situation. Very high stakes for them at least. So it's nice to see that he is aware that there should be lasting consequences to their psyche. So they're like, oh my god, we just died. But they can process it. They all have their own things that they can do to feel better, and then they do, and then they're all good. For now, it's better than before. We've actually acknowledged the trauma. I was sitting alone, munching on a peanut butter and banana sandwich. Hey, I made it myself. One of my pro recipes. The thing is, Percy doesn't have any friends. Percy never has any friends at school. The only friends he's had are Grover, who was assigned to protect him, and Tyson, who was homeless and didn't have any other friends and just really felt connected to him because they're both children of Poseidon. So no, Percy has never had any friends. He had Rachel for a year, for the year they went to school together, but we never saw from that. So poor Percy is always eating alone, even when he's at camp. I just realized he always has to sit at the table alone. Just, it's hard to have mortal friends, I assume, especially at this point. Like, how do you let someone in, especially after Rachel? I just want Percy to have fun at school as well. I just want Percy to have friends. Is that so much to ask? Maybe. Forgive me. I so rarely send Demigod on quest. Is this the part where I threaten your life if you fail? No, I said. That comes later. I don't think there's anything anyone could say at this point to surprise Percy. He just has an answer for everything. Like, anything you could say to him, he will send it back to you. It's like a tennis match with Percy. Send it to him, he sends it right back with loads of sarcasm. He's my hero. In case you haven't noticed, I've shaped and modeled my whole personality after Percy, so of course I enjoy things like this. She put her dagger across her textbook to mark her spot. I wasn't sure what her roommate thought about the knife either. The knife. People have been talking about the freaking knife. Spoilers for Heroes of Olympus. So in Tartarus, when they fall, Annabeth loses the knife, the cursed blade that Luke gave her in the main series, well before, when they were little. So people are now wondering, what freaking knife is Annabeth holding in this scene? Is it just a random knife? Or, very possibly, has Rick forgotten that Annabeth lost the knife during that fall to Tartarus? I mean, it was pretty traumatic, so maybe he himself erased his own brain of what happened. If I had to bet, I think this is probably just a random knife, because Annabeth has trained her whole life with a knife, so even if it's not the knife she's used her whole life, she'd probably want to still have one in hand instead of a sword, since she's more practiced with it. But we all know that Annabeth can hold her own with a sword, as we see in the last Olympian Battle of Manhattan, in the last few chapters of the Battle of the Labyrinth, but also we see her with a sword after losing her knife in the House of Hades. So let me know your theories down below. Was it a mistake or is it on purpose? I wondered how Annabeth had pulled that off. Favors must have been promised, money, firstborn children, something. The second time I was reading it, I completely forgot what the favor was, so I kept screenshotting things like, oh my god, what's going to happen? It's all going to come back to us in the next book. and then no, I remember that the favor was the thing with Grover. So very underwhelming second read through. I was like, oh my god, this is going to lead to a whole other side quest in the next. No, it's resolved in this one, so don't get your hopes up. Annabeth laughed. I thought that was kind of funny, actually. Calm down, Seaweed Brain. I've got this under control. Don't me. She glanced behind her. My roommate's coming. Gotta go. Love you. You too. Don't love your plan though. Finish your homework. Yes, ma'am. She nodded, satisfied, and blew me a kiss. And just like that, we have another perfect Persebeth interaction. They're besties, Your Honor, but they're also in love. And they say that so much. They say that so much throughout this whole book. I should have an I love you counter on screen. It's what we deserve. I imagine that because of all of their shared trauma, they always think that they might die the next day, so they have to say it all the time because it's important. They have to know. Lots of stuff to photograph, Grover said, leaning not so casually against a mailbox to give her a side profile angle. So then we finally get to see why Blanche is so terrifying to Percy. She was telling a ghost story around the campfire at Camp Have Blood, and then she took the color out of everyone, literally making them monochrome black and white. They were screaming, they was crying, and running in circles. And that was just me. And when I tell you that this sentence alone made me almost cry from laughing so hard, I am not exaggerating. This is probably my favorite sentence of all time. It's so deadpan, it's so straight and to the point, and you never see that punchline coming. I love Percy, and now I need to see this, or at least like fan her of it. Just Percy being so freaked out that he's just like, he gets up, he's like running in circles, he's like, what is happening to me? I need it. Occasionally, he threw himself into her line of vision, posing in different dramatic angles, draping himself across tables of vegetables like a lounge singer on a piano. Relax, Annabeth told me. You're grinding your teeth. I'm not, I said, though I totally was. She took my hand. Enjoy the day. Maybe later I'll let you buy me lunch. That doesn't make me feel better, I said. Though it totally did. Once again, when we see Iris, we have Rick Riordan reminding us that gods and goddesses can look however they want to. She looked nothing like I remembered. That didn't surprise me. Gods can change their appearance the way mortals change the clothes. Don't expect any of the gods to look like they are described in the books, which makes sense because they're eternal beings, so they would get bored of looking like the same person every single day of their lives. I wonder if they would change actors halfway through the series for like no reason other than to prove this point. Are they going to hire several actresses for Aphrodite? That's the one that would make the most sense for me. But also, maybe the gods go in disguise. Apollo does disguise himself in the third book as a homeless man, so maybe that'll be someone else, or maybe that will be just the Apollo guy with a mustache on. Just relax, Blanche told us. Let me do the talking. As long as I look alright, Grover said, turning his face to the sun in his best impression of a dying wildflower. It occurred to me that Blanche had found a novel strategy to get Godly's parents' attention. Complete indifference. Reverse psychology, people. I suppose she'd say we have to find it on our own, I guess, because knowledge is valuable, blah, blah, blah. Annabeth poked me in the ribs. What we need is an upper level water spirit to give us directions. So we're finally getting to the second side quest, and that is going over to clean Iris's staff. And we go into a tunnel and there's weird moss on the walls. Annabeth moved the beam of her flashlight across the tunnel ceiling, which was coated with moss and lichen so thick I couldn't tell if there was any man-made asphalt or natural rock underneath. Wherever Annabeth's light passed, it left behind a streak of blue-green luminescence. Cool. I used my flashlight to draw a glowing smiley face on the wall. And when I say I need fan art of the next scene. How old are you? Annabeth asked. 8 just last week. That got a smile. I loved making her smile when she was trying not to. It always felt like a victory. We spent a few minutes painting like graffiti. River wrote Pam forever. I wrote AC plus BJ. Annabeth traced concentric arcs until she'd made a blue and green rainbow. The fact that it's Percy and not Annabeth, the one writing their initials together, and that he writes Annabeth before he writes Percy, is just incredible. And I love to see that he is so in love with Annabeth. I love the trope. She fell first, but he felt harder, and that is Persebeth. We know Annabeth has kind of had like a crush on Percy since they were 12. She was a bit confused about the whole look situation, but she, you know, the crush was there, and that's why she acted like that. But Percy, when he falls in love, he does it like he's 0 or 100. And this guy is feeling like 200 towards Annabeth. No, that made no sense, but I'm gonna keep it. It's just so nice to see them being able to be normal teenagers and be stupid before heading into mortal danger. Sometimes I forgot he wasn't a scared junior satyr protector anymore, but a scared Cloven Council elder. I guess we've both grown up a lot. So there are also several theories about this. Annabeth mentions wishing they could have Luke's flying shoes in order to do the cleaning of the staff thingy. She almost never said his name. It seemed like a bad omen that she was bringing him up now. It's just a weird throwaway line we could have done without, so I feel like the placement of it is very intentional. Is this Rick giving us a nod because he's like, okay, I know you think that we're never gonna talk about Luke again and that's out of character for these two, so boom, there. I give you the bare minimum, you're gonna have to accept it. Or is this him planting foreshadowing for something that's gonna happen later on in the series? You let me know, because my mind is not working that well today, so let me know what you think. I have an idea, Grover said. It's terrible, but it might work. I love it already, I said. That's how all of their ideas start, to be honest. So Percy and Annabeth are at the edge of the cliff. Percy's trying to be rational, being like, I'm not gonna jump in there if I don't know how I'm gonna get out, so give me time to figure things out. But Grover starts to run out of time. Annabeth's like, time's up. Annabeth told me, bon voyage. And she pushed me over the side. Find someone who loves you the way my girlfriend pushes me off a cliff. Without hesitation, with full confidence in my abilities, with a rock-steady believe that your relationship can handle it, and with complete faith that when you come out of the water, assuming you survive, you will totally forgive them for the push. Almost certainly forgive them, probably. Bonus points if you find someone with enough chapa to say bon voyage while they do it. Another instantly iconic Perceval passage. It's Iris' staff, if that helps. Oh, in that case, you're going to shut me down with sarcasm again, aren't you? So, you're not a complete idiot, Ellison smiled. That was sarcasm, by the way. Just my luck. I brought sincerity to a sarcasm fight. It's the first time he's met with sarcasm from a god, so Percy is quite confused during this whole ordeal. Especially since Iris did not get it at all. She was giving me that look of alarm I knew well. Percy, don't die. Even though she herself pushed him into the danger and now she's like, oh I also didn't want to die, but at least if I got killed down there, Annabeth would feel really bad about pushing me. Then I could tease her about it forever, except I'd be dead. Never mind. Quick thought process there. Or you think you've got your temper under control, then you get a bad grade and throw a world-class tantrum, so your skateboard ends up sticking out of your bedroom wall, impaling your favorite Jimi Hendrix poster. Those are purely hypothetical examples, of course. So you mean to tell me that it's canon that Percy got very mad over a bad grade, of all things, took his skateboard and put it through the f***ing wall. Skateboard, wall. And it was just impaled, sticking out of the wall. It's very funny. I'm gonna forget that about him. My boy does not have temper tantrums and smash things into the walls. I really hope that that skateboard is still there and that he's using it to like hold books or something. That would be really funny. Jokes aside, Percy is relieving his trauma of drowning and he explodes. A lot of readers, myself included, interpret this passage as Percy having a PTSD-induced panic attack. As I was tossed around, flipped, and pummeled like laundry on a heavy-duty cycle, my control crumbled. I was a scared kid again, screaming for the big bad world to leave me alone. My rage exploded. And so did the river. It blasted away from me in every direction, putting me at ground zero of the detonation. Curled up alone in a bubble of air, howling so loudly I could hear myself even over the roar of the torrent. Some part of me had reached outward, not just into the pool, but into the source of the river, dipped down into the underworld, or maybe Yonkers. And it had pulled it by its roots. Millions of metrics of water roared through the cavern, flooding the pool. Give this little guy a hug. Clearly, he's not over the almost drowning thing. I was trembling, strung out, and terrified by what he'd done. I don't know how long it took me to regain my senses. Seconds? Minutes? I looked up and had one clear thought. Annabeth, if I had accidentally watched her away, and people want Dark Percy to be a thing, why would you want this boy to suffer? That's like the worst thing you could tell him. This boy just wants to be good. He has a whole song about him. His I Want song. This song that shows what his deepest, darkest desire is that he just wants to be a good kid. He wants to prove to the world that he's worth something, that he's good, that he is not a burden. But no, people just want Dark Percy because it's hot and sexy or whatever, but it's really not. Percy doesn't want Dark Percy. He is constantly fighting against it to prove to the world that he's better and that he's worth being alive. So shut up. I am a Dark Percy hater, and that's it. Don't ask Rick to do that. I mean, you can. It won't change anything because Rick doesn't like Dark Percy either. If you want Dark Percy, I don't think you understand the character of Percy at all. If you want Dark Percy, then look for another protagonist because Percy isn't dark. With that rant out of the way, let's keep going. Because when somebody plays YMCA, it is almost always a cry for help. Percy is a bit of a hater. I think he's always been that way, but especially in this book, I've noticed because he's a hater towards things I love. Karaoke, I love it. It's one of my favorite activities. And brunch, it's my favorite thing to do when I hang out with my friends. And I love karaoke. I mean, I'm not in love with YMCA. I could live without it in the world, but I also don't despise it. Percy, why are you coming for me specifically? Annabeth had instructed me to skip through the fields while holding Iris's staff. She was pretty sure this would create a rainbow. And whatever you do, don't stop skipping, Skippy. Being a good soldier, I did what she told me. As soon as I trudged out of the river, I put my shoes and socks on. I started skipping through the grass. I thought about all the plans Annabeth and I had made about college and beyond. I wonder what the plans for beyond are, because obviously we know the plans for college, but what happens beyond? Beyond them, you know, staying alive and together, what happens? I thought about all the things I wanted to tell her. I wished I could at least let her know how much I loved her after, you know, she pushed him off a cliff and caused, you know, a traumatic incident in his life, but suddenly I felt lighter on my feet. He's flying. And I asked myself, Percy, why are you doing that? I don't know, I answered, because I'm not very helpful when I talk to myself. And the fact that that's exactly how my brain works, just me talking to myself and the other part of me being like, dude, if you don't know, then how would I know? We share one brain cell. He's currently in possession of it. Take me to Annabeth, I told the staff. My feet left the rocks and I rose slowly into the dark air. Below me, the snakes watched in amazement. Farewell, my friends, I told them. Be good to one another. Then I ascended. I wondered if I was leaving the snakes with a new religion. If they would tell stories to future generations about the strange rainbow god boy who tripped a lot before returning to the heavens. Or maybe they were just thinking, this kid is really weird. Percy embracing the weird at this point in his life is just incredible. I love it. It feels like Percy decided that if he can't fight the weird in his life, he's going to join it, and he's going to be the weirdest guy out there. So it makes sense that Annabeth in the musical is like, this guy is weird, but a good weird. And I've seen a face as beautiful as... Greetings, Earthling, I said. Annabeth nearly leaped out of her shoes. What? How? She's cute when she's startled. And Percy's cute when he's worried. It doesn't happen very often, so I have to enjoy it when it does. I have a message for Annabeth Chase, I said. I love you. Oh, what a smooth... I tried to give her a kiss, but it was difficult because she started laughing. Okay, I get it, she said, pushing me away gently. Messenger staff, nice work. Yeah, I totally planned it. You totally had no idea. This is just giving me flashbacks to the scene when they're in the dining hall and Percy finally tells her that he likes her. Like, this banter is the original Percival banter. Just because you're right doesn't mean I don't resent it. That is how I feel every single day of my life towards everything. She kissed me back. I love you too, Seaweed Brain. Grover cleared his throat. I'm fine, thanks. Love you too, G-Man, I assured him. That was some fine pan-piping. Pan-piping, why can't I ever say that word? It's a hard word. So Grover finally got his picture taken by Blanche, and the picture showed him dressed in a kilt of withered palm leaves, draped over a burnt log, and surrounded by dead insects. This whole side quest of Grover being very dramatic and posing, this is making me realize how much I love Grover and how very underrated he is. Past me specifically. Percy's like, I don't understand a single part of what I just said, but nobody has my opinion. Then I looked at Annabeth. I remembered this was about going to college with her, being with her. That was non-negotiable. No matter how difficult the challenge or how cleansing the sage, I offer relationship advice No, seriously. Why are you laughing? I think everyone knows, Percy. People could say that Annabeth is on the same boat when it comes to relationships as Percy, because it takes two to tango and it takes two to make the whole mess that they did in Battle of the Labyrinth. But in her defense, when Annabeth is not part of a relationship, she can give quite good objective advice. Whereas Percy can only give good advice in his own relationship if he's in it. And even then, never give a satyr a photo op, but I say please do every single book because it's comic gold. Comedic. The next afternoon, Grover showed up to my second swim meet wearing a black beret, sunglasses, and a white smock. He looked like he was ready to paint watercolors on the streets in Paris or something. Grover stared at me over the top of his sunglasses, his bloodshot eyes completely lost. It's Blanche's photography. So a lot of times then, you don't think Juniper is jealous? I imagined a chorus of obvious angels singing the obvious hymn above his head, but I try to keep my expression neutral. Could be. This guy, I hope he realizes that every single camper was thinking that about him for years. Poor Annabeth. The moment things finally clicked for Percy in the last Olympian, Annabeth must have felt like she must have had like a spider sense tingling, because that moment the whole world like cracked. There was probably an earthquake with the realization. The world has never been the same after Percy realized he loved Annabeth at the River Styx. Followed Annabeth's lead, and so far that had worked pretty well. With any relationship that wasn't Annabeth and me, I didn't feel qualified to offer an opinion. Just be honest with her, I suggested. Apologize, tell her you weren't thinking, you were being stupid. Right, like you do with Annabeth. Low blow, dude. But fair enough. I remembered something Annabeth had told me months before when I was trying to figure out what I could do to make up for disappearing our entire junior year. Look man, Juniper will forgive you. She probably doesn't want presents at all. She just wants you to be there. Listen to her. Listen to how she's feeling. Be with her! It's very interesting to me that once Percy came back from being missing for 9 months, he thought he had to make it up to Annabeth, and that the best way to do that was for some reason to just give her presents, which is weird because giving presents is not Percy's love language at all. If anything, it's Annabeth because she loves giving people thoughtful gifts. But it's weird to me that Percy was like, oh, I went missing because of something that's way out of my control, so now I have to make it up to Annabeth. At the same time, it's very, very Percy logic, so it's canon. I get it, but Percy, my man, why would you have to do anything? Neither of you should do anything. You should just work through your relationship issues together. Grover feels like he's being left behind because Percy and Annabeth are both going to New Rome together. Oh, Grover, I did give him a hug then. I felt a little awkward since I was only wearing a swimsuit and I was still wet from my last event, but he didn't seem to care. We're never leaving you, buddy. We'll be back to visit. I think actually Grover goes to California in the Trials of Apollo, so everything works out. You'll come to see us in California. You're like our life source, dude. We can only be away from you for so long before we start to wither, you know? Get friends like that. Percy is the best friend ever. I'm so sorry that you forgot all about Grover's existence during the Heroes of Olympus. Not just the Son of Neptune. The bros are back and they need a the boys are back moment. I just need a version of that. Can someone get like an animatics of them doing that dance and the whole routine? I need it. Sometimes I wondered if Annabeth was open to the idea of marrying me someday only because she was excited about getting Sally Jackson Blowfish as her mother-in-law. Honestly, I couldn't blame her. But she was, you're telling me they've discussed this, and Anna was like, oh, I'm open to the idea. Why that choice of words, Percy? Shouldn't she be more excited than just open to the idea? But they've discussed it. They've discussed it! Annabeth had already seen my baby pictures, so I wasn't worried about what they were saying. I had no dignity left. Annabeth and I were still together. I figured that was good enough. He kissed me. You're not in the same place as I was, thank the gods. You're going to be a great big brother. A warm flush of joy rushed through me. You think? Of course. And I can't wait to see you learn how to change diapers. Me neither, but I don't think we're gonna see that. It's hard to tell a story and eat lasagna sandwich at the same time. So I prioritized the sandwich. I nodded, and I ate. Watching Ganymede get more and more agitated, I wasn't sure how he'd take the news. If he vaporized me, I wanted to have eaten a last good meal. A good last meal. This guy is just giving zero He's been through it all, the apocalypse 2.5 times, so After an uneventful weekend, Annabeth broke into my room at 4:30 a.m. Monday morning, which sounds a lot more exciting than it actually was. It's exciting for me, Percy. Just Annabeth keeping up with the tradition of breaking into Percy's room at ungodly hours. I woke to the sound of Annabeth's knife blade sweeping across the lock of my bedroom window. She could have just knocked, but I guess she liked the challenge. She climbed in from the fire escape. "But soft," I said, "what light through yonder window bricks." She flashed me a smile. "I'm impressed you can quote Shakespeare." "I can quote Spark Notes." I rubbed my eyes. Percy quoting Shakespeare. Not only Shakespeare, but Romeo and Juliet to Annabeth. Please, I also need fan art of this. If you found fan art of this, let me know down below because I need to feast my eyes on it. "This stuff freaks me out," I said. "It looks like radioactive honey." "No, it's not radioactive, honey. I see what you did there." Annabeth being on top of the puns once again. Was I too loud? "I don't want to wake Sally and Paul." "It's fine," I assured her. And if my mom heard Annabeth in my room, the worst consequence would be that she'd offer my girlfriend a cup of tea. It's weird what happens when your parents just accept you and support you and assume you will do the right thing. You end up wanting to do the right thing. Now, when I first read this, I was in complete shock because what does that mean? They're talking about Sally trusting Percy to do the right thing and Sally walking in on Percy and Annabeth being in the same room at night and not imagining them doing anything ever. So does doing the right thing mean not having sex? What does this mean? Because I feel like it's a weird sentence for Rick to throw in there. It's not a throwaway line. So what is he saying? Is he saying that the right thing is to not have premarital sex? Or to not have sex with your girlfriend in your mom's apartment? Or to not have sex before you're 18? What? I'm sorry, it's a kid's book, but what is happening? What are they saying? I don't know. Please explain it to me what you think they're saying. Am I getting too holed up on one throwaway line? Maybe, usually, always. The right thing? What does it mean? All I'm saying, it's okay if you're feeling conflicted about leaving. I leaned over and kissed her. No conflict, no second thoughts. I told you I'm not leaving you ever again. Never again. As long as we're together. Flashbacks to the war. Okay, she wrinkled her nose. Although it's fine if you want to leave for a few minutes to brush your teeth. Your breath is a little. Hey, you woke me up. This is exactly the same thing that happened in Mark of Athena. And I'm all for reliving Percabeth's biggest hits. Guys. Okay, so we're finally at Washington Park and getting ready to fight Gary. I couldn't let him hurt Annabeth or Grover. I totally get it. Really? Gary narrowed his eyes. I don't believe you. I didn't believe me either. Curse that smart old guy. I tried to imagine what Annabeth would do. I wondered what Grover would do. Then, because my brain was weird, I wondered what I would do in the situation I was in. Hold on, I squeaked. Sometimes when I'm in imminent danger of death, my Mickey Mouse voice comes out. I hope, Walker, that you've read this and you've taken notes for season 2. What was Hercules' secret? No secret, just brute force. I rubbed my biceps and tried not to feel offended. I wasn't exactly weak, but super strength wasn't on my list of superpowers. I can breathe underwater and talk to horses instead, which wasn't so useful, except it was. It saved us so many times. She studied my face, maybe wondering whether she would try to knock some sense into me with the hilt of her dagger. Finally, she sighed. It has to be your call. Just don't underestimate him because of how he looks, Percy. It made me uneasy when she called me Percy instead of Seaweed Brain. It meant we were way beyond the point where she needed to criticize how dumb I was being. Although, since you're going to lose, most of the terms are, what's the word? Moot. You're moot, I grumbled because I am deadly with those quick clapbacks. With his free hand, he punched me in the ribs. The sound that came out of my throat would have alerted any walruses within a 2-mile radius that I was looking for companionship. What does that sound like? I wonder if in the audiobook the narrator makes that sound. Now I need to hear it. Flag on the play, Grover yelled. 10-yard penalty. No body blows, Annabeth agreed. That's not wrestling. I don't understand American football if that's what Grover is referencing, so I have no clue what that means. Gary's like, do not interfere again, and Annabeth crouches, her dagger in hand. Grover literally has to hold her back from leaping into the fight. Not that she could hold old age with a knife, but that wouldn't stop her from dying. I like to see Annabeth being defensive or Percy and being overprotective. I mean, not overprotective, just protective enough. Awesome. I couldn't win, but at least I get a participation award from old age. After I dissolved to dust, Annabeth could frame the certificate and keep it in her dorm room when she went to New Rome University by herself. Like she would if Percy died. Annabeth, I promised I would never leave her again. When we left this life, I wanted it to be together, many years from now, when we were old and gray. And then we have the shock of the century. Percy mentions Jason. Remember, this is before Trials of Apollo and after Heroes of Olympus. So Jason is very much alive and well. I remembered something my buddy Jason once told me. In a moment of crisis, he'd had a dream that he was an old man, married to his girlfriend, Piper, with a bunch of grandchildren running around. He hadn't taken the dream as an ironclad glimpse of the future. I don't remember if this is a flashback to something that actually happened that we've seen during Heroes of Olympus. Please let me know if you do remember, because I would love to know. If this did happen during Heroes of Olympus, maybe this is Rick being like, this happened, but at the same time, they're not canon anymore, so both things can be true at the same time. Or if this is just like a weird line, please let me know. I glanced at Annabeth and Grover. We'd been through so much together. I imagined Annabeth with silver hair and wrinkles, chuckling as she called me seaweed rain for the 4th millionth time in our life. I imagined Grover with tufts of white hair coming out of his ears, his back hunched as he leaned on a cane, bleeding as he complained about his aching hooves, then maybe taking a nap on a bench in our beachside garden, while I sat next to him, resting my aching bones as I watched the waves and smelled the sea air. Percy just wants to grow old with his 2 best friends, and I just want that for him as well. And the fact that he imagines not only Annabeth but Grover shows you how much Grover means to both of them. And that's why this book, it had to be the 3 of them. It couldn't just be Percabeth, it had to be the Golden Trio, and I'm so glad they're back. And unless I died young, I couldn't beat old age. But what if I could embrace him? And then he does. He hugs him. Then I said what I was pretty sure would go down in history as the dumbest last words ever. I love you, bro. I don't think there could have been any better last words, Percy. I pictured myself holding hands with Annabeth when we were both wrinkly and frail, and I still looked into her eyes and loved her as much as ever. I imagined ruffling Grover's gray hair when he fell asleep on a garden bench, telling him, "Wake up there, G-man. Food's ready." He just wants a simple life with his friends. Why can't he have that? It was better than the alternative. Living fast, dying young, and leaving a good-looking corpse is a cool-sounding thing. I peeked at Annabeth and Grover. The satyr looked stunned, but Wise Girl was smiling faintly. He hasn't said Wise Girl in a bit. I'm glad to see it coming back. Of course she got what I was doing. She was quick to recognize a good strategy. And that twinkle of appreciation in her eyes was the best look I could have ever hoped for. It meant she was proud of me. Ugh! Percy loving Annabeth being proud of her is just... Hugging him? That was really risky. It was perfect, Annabeth said. She marched up and kissed me. You know what? I think you'll make a handsome old man. I hope one day we'll get the chance to find out, but I'm glad it isn't today. Me too. Imagine if we had the Hebe thing. We could have had Percy, Annabeth, and Grover told into old people. I wonder if that was part of the first draft of this book, like them turning into 8-year-olds at the beginning and then them turning into 80-year-olds at the end of the book. Only for a little bit, but it would have been incredible. I am kind of glad we didn't get it though, but it would have been really funny though. And then we get another plot hole that Rick creates for himself for some reason that I don't understand. So we all know that Annabeth, before she falls off a cliff, not Tartarus people, I mean in the Titan's Curse, her cap falls off her head and Percy takes care of it, and he is the one who has the invisibility cap all throughout that book. He puts it on to spy on Nico, spying on the hunters, and then he puts it on several times throughout that quest. Why here does it sound like Percy has never worn it in his life? I put on Annabeth's cap. Even though I adjusted it to be the biggest size, it didn't feel my big head, but it still seemed to do its job. I looked down on my body and saw a vague smoky outline where Percy Jackson used to be. Suddenly, I felt like I had termites swarming all over my skin. Annabeth had never told me that had generated a bad case of creepy crawlies. No wonder she only used it for life or death situations. I get the feeling that this is Rick Riordan excusing Annabeth not using the cap in any situation, but at the same time, there's a whole book that I can point to that quickly makes this argument poof, dissolve into nothing. Chapter 31. I face a dangerous predator who is possibly my future mother-in-law. Annabeth has it so much easier than Percy. Has she ever had to talk to Poseidon? I don't think so. I want to meet Annabeth Chase, she said. I want a selfie and an autograph. Really? She's my hero, Barbara said. No, I get that. She's my hero too. It's just, is this because Annabeth is the architect, the official architect of Olympus? Or is this just because Annabeth is cool? I need to know. So Percy has a conversation, but not through words, through the look in their eyes, and he's like, yeah, I know. I can't believe my daughter is still dating you. Love is a mystery. Please don't kill me. And then Athena's like, she doesn't kill him. And then Percy, after all that, he realizes he was shaking from the late fear. All the adrenaline rushed out of his body. I could still see Athena's eyes boring into me, so much worse than the gaze of the lion. And it's nice to see that there are consequences, that Percy isn't like a god. He goes into life and death situations and his heart is pounding out of his chest. And I feel like Rick has decided that to finally write those reactions in, and I like to see it. I'll be honest, Percy, Grover says, the most scared I've ever been, it was probably in that Cyclops cave in the Sea of Monsters. When I was all alone, he would his nose, which made the hula hoop sparkle cheerfully, because hula hoops have no sense of propriety. But today, he continued, when I watched you wrestling Gary, that was a close second. I really thought I was going to lose you. My heart felt like it was filled with a particularly heavy Olympian beverage. Aw, G-Man, we came through it okay. We always do. Sniffle. I know, but every time I feel like we're tempting fate. Nothing is scarier than watching your friends struggle and not being able to help. Facts. And then they hug again because Percy's like, dude, you were in my dream about me being old. We were old together, and Grover is like eating that up because he needs it. He needs that before his two best friends leave for the other side of the country. He gave me a hug that reminded me how much my ribs hurt. But honestly, I didn't mind. We probably looked strange standing there on Fifth Avenue, just two guys hugging it out with a hula hoop between us. I didn't mind that either. I love them. I love them hugging. We never see that before, and I love them. I love them. I love them. Then when everything is resolved and after talking to Poseidon, we get the Jacksons having dinner. Sally mentions that her book, which has not been published yet, has received a 1-star review online because apparently Love Some of the Gods promoted paganism. And that's obviously a wink wink moment to when Rick first published those books, and even up to now. Obviously they're about the Greek gods, the Roman gods, the Norse gods, the Egyptian gods, so people tend to give it 1-star reviews, one without reading them, just because of the subjects that it's about. People who give 1-star reviews to normal books, not even books written by known serial killers or really toxic people, just because they think it's gonna be bad, I hate you. You shouldn't do that. Give reviews to books that you've read. That's it. That's my contribution to this conversation. Then we have a moment that's pretty similar to a moment that we got in Shazam 2, where we have a magic paper that writes anything you say. So obviously, Percy says, "Dear admissions office," without meaning to, and it writes that. So he's like, "Well, crap," I said. Well, crap wrote the fancy calligraphy. And is this the first time we've heard Percy Jackson say crap? Because if it is, I am loving it and I'm here for it. He's 17. Please say it more often. No, delete! I looked at Annabeth, who was trying hard not to laugh. This isn't funny. I said, delete, delete. I love this very lighthearted end to this book. It has all been lighthearted, but with a lot of talks of trauma. So it's nice to see that they can wind down and have fun. I highly recommend Percy Jackson for the New Rome University. He is adorable and has nice eyes. I'm not saying that. Delete, delete. And then we have the last chapter, which is of course titled pretty much the best goodnight kiss ever. Even though spoilers, they do not kiss in this scene. And if they do, it's not a physical kiss, it's an emotional kiss. That night, I told Annabeth the full story. She shimmered in the rainbow light, her head propped on one hand, an open textbook on the bed in front of her, some math stuff that was beyond me. Her smile was the perfect antidote for my long, crazy day. Sure, she had smiled at dinner and laughed at me a lot, but this was a warmer, more intimate smile. I like to think it was just for me. We know it's just for you, Percy. It's just for you. You know what this means? She stretched her hands towards me. Her fingers dispersed into water and light as they hit the iris message. But I reached toward her anyway. When the image reformed, it looked like as if our hands had merged, fused together at our lifelines. Annabeth was smiling again. My mom gets it. Annabeth said. It's weird that she didn't before, seeing as she's usually so far ahead of everyone else, but I guess this isn't a battlefield. Sorry, she gets what? She laughed. How serious about you I am, seaweed brain. My chest tightened, but it wasn't an unpleasant feeling. More like a snug woolly sweater being wrapped around me. So you think she'd help me for your sake? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. What other angle could she have? She knows I'm going to see this through, Annabeth said. I'm going to make sure we both get to adulthood and have a chance to settle down. Hopefully after having a lot of fun while we're at college. Now that is a book that I want to get. I want Percabeth at college. That's it. You had me at fun, I said. Actually, you had me at the whole thing. This boy is so ready to spend the rest of his life loving Annabeth. So Percy tells Annabeth what he was thinking while he hugged Gary. Oh my god, Annabeth brushed away a tear. You know, sometimes you can be so sweet. Honestly, most of the time when he's not being dumb, he's actually really, really sweet. Only sometimes. Let's stay focused, shall we? You still have 2 more letters of recommendation to get before winter break. That means 2 more quests for the gods. Easy queasy. You mean peasy. No, I'm pretty sure it makes me queasy. But we'll make it, right? I mean, if even your mom is on our side, I wouldn't press too hard on that point. But it's a good sign. And yes, we'll make it. Hey, Percy? Yeah? I hate to break it to you, but I think I might be in love. Oh, crud. I was afraid of that. I love you too. Finish your homework. Good night. Good night, wise girl. And as we always did, we rolled toward each other, breaking the iris message as we came together. But in the mist and the last flecks of the light, I thought I could smell her presence and feel the warmth of her hug. Honestly, that was enough to make me believe anything was possible. Except homework. I fell asleep almost immediately, and for once, I had pleasant dreams. And for once, I didn't look back! Is this a 2-hour-long video about my favorite passages and basically whole pages of the Chalice of the Gods? Yes. Am I going to want to shoot myself in the face while editing this? Probably yes. But please leave a like if you like this video. Comment down below what your favorite passage was and what your theories about the 3-faced goddess, the next book in this surprising trilogy. What are your theories about that? Please comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't already and click that bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. I post videos just like this, only slightly shorter, every single Friday. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Annabeth going to university without him is his night terror. Paralysis. Paralysis. Annabeth going to California without him is Percy's Annabeth going to California to Annabeth going to New Rome without him is Percy's sleep paralysis demon. Annabeth going to New Rome without him is Percy's sleep paralysis. Annabeth going to New Rome without him is Annabeth going to New Rome without him is Percy's sleep paralysis demon. Got him! Got him! Got him! Got him!